Hello, we are glad that you're watching now. We encourage you to watch our previous video lessons and take the corresponding quiz for each. You can watch them through our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And before we formally begin with this lesson on checks, composed of 3 components, we would like to thank those who followed and liked our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We encourage you to continuously share this to those people who are studying law, reviewing for the bar, or who can relate to the topics covered by the video lessons. Thank you so much. We are more eager to continue working given your constant support. Now, we go to our lesson. This lesson is composed of 3 components. We plan to have this arranged in this way. First, we talk about the commercial law aspect of checks. Then, the second component, the criminal law aspects of check, focusing on the crimes of violation of the Batas Pambansa bilang 22 or the Anti-Bouncing Checks Law. And then the third component is on remedial law, which covers the remedies available to the aggrieved party in case of non-compliance to the contract involved or violation of the criminal laws of the country. These 3 laws in relation to checks are interrelated, and your understanding of checks would be comprehensive. Before we tackle the core about checks, we must know the laws applicable to checks. Basically, there are 3 laws governing checks. 1. The Negotiable Instruments Law. 2. The Code of Commerce, particularly Book 2 thereof, which applies prior to the effectivity of the Negotiable Instruments Law. And 3. The Civil Code, which applies subsisting with and in case of insufficiency of the provisions of the Negotiable Instruments Law. We now explore the Negotiable Instruments Law. It was enacted on February 3, 1911. Thus, it is among the oldest subsisting laws of the country. However, in banking practice, some of its provisions are rendered ineffective or useless, such as check certification. The Negotiable Instruments Law became effective on June 2, 1911, which is 90 days after it was published in the Official Gazette on March 4, 1911. The Negotiable Instruments Law applies to all negotiable instruments that meet the requirements under Section 1 of the law. In a while, you will know these requirements. The purpose basically of the law is to facilitate commercial paper transactions. And before knowing what is a negotiable instrument, you must know what is the purpose and function of a negotiable instrument. The requirements for an instrument to be negotiable are in line with its purpose. If the purpose is defeated or not reached, then the instrument is considered no longer negotiable. And for a better understanding, you have to keep in mind the simple meaning of instrument, which is a tool used for a specific function. So, the following are the purpose and functions of a negotiable instrument. 1. It is a substitute for money. That instead of you bringing a sack full of cash, you just bring one piece of paper or document. 2. It is a medium of exchange in commercial transactions. Since commerce has become so complex, to ease up this complexity for the convenience of the traders, negotiable instruments are used. 3. It is a medium of credit transactions. One way or another, the negotiable instrument is a reflection of an agreement between a debtor and a creditor. Thus, the negotiable instrument speaks more than its simple appearance. In totality, it is about convenience and security. It is now ripe to tackle Section 1 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. It says that for an instrument to be considered negotiable, the following requirements must be present. 1. In writing and signed by the maker or drawer. 2. Must contain an unconditional promise or order to pay a sum certain in money. 3. Must be payable on demand, or at a fixed or determinable future time. 4. Must be payable to order or to bearer. And 5. If addressed to a drawee, he must be named or otherwise indicated therein with reasonable certainty. To complement these requirements, you must know the common examples of negotiable instruments. unless its negotiable character is being stopped by one of the parties involved. Before you know the examples, rest assured that LexClassroom will create lessons addressing all the provisions of the Negotiable Instruments Law. The common examples of negotiable instruments are as follows: 1. Promissory notes, and 2. Bills of exchange. Promissory notes could be personal, commercial, real estate, and investment type. Examples of which are certificate of deposit, bond, and debenture. The types of bills of exchange basically depends on the time period, objective, and territory. Examples could be draft, inland and foreign bill, time draft, sight or demand draft, trade acceptance, banker's acceptance, and check. And among the most common bills of exchange is a check. Our lesson for today focuses on checks, as you already know in the onset. But there is a need to put things in context. Basically, the instrument is negotiable when 1. It represents value, that whoever gets hold of it can justifiably believe that what he or she has value. 2. That the instrument is freely or unconditionally transferable from one person to another, not necessarily a trader in the same line of business with the one transferring it to him. And 3. That the instrument represents title, that whoever possesses it for a consideration will be paid in the amount specified on the agreed date, immediate or in the future. The implications of these characteristics: the holder has 1. The authority to demand payment, and 2. The right to be paid. On the other hand, the original issuer or maker of the instrument has the obligation to pay and honor the other terms as found in the instrument, like date of maturity of the obligation to pay. So, what is a check? A blank check looks like this. Look closely and you will find the parts of a check, namely, from the top of the front page: A. The check number, B. The account name or the name of the drawer or issuer who retains an account with the drawee bank, C. The check number as given by the drawee bank, D. The date of issuance or maturity, E. The name of the payee or creditor, F. The amount payable or drawn in figures, G. The amount payable in words, H. The drawee bank's name and address, and I. The signature of the drawer or issuer of the check. And at the back of the check is the endorsement with the name of the payee and the signature, and the account number to which the funds will be deposited, and the portion where the drawee bank's employee writes. Since you have seen an actual check and familiarize its parts, we now go to the parties involved in a check. We are talking about the original parties and without any second endorsement. In a little while, we will tackle about second endorsement. The parties to a check are as follows. 1. The drawer, whose signature appears on the check. He is also called the issuer. He is considered too as the debtor, and he is the one ordering the drawee bank to pay the payee. But you have to remember that it is possible that the drawer and the payee are one and the same person. 2. The drawee is a bank where the drawer maintains an account and the one being ordered to pay the check upon presentment for payment. And 3. The payee, who is the person to whom the drawee bank should give the amount of money as written in the check. If the payee will endorse the check to another person, that is what we call second endorsement. As the first endorsement is a payee to the bank, this area of concern will be elaborated later. Given that you know the parts of a check and the parties involved, we are showing to you how issuance is done. And this is what an issued check looks like. But have you wondered what is the meaning of issuance? Issuance should be understood in its ordinary meaning. Thus, issuance of a check is the completion of the check to make it available for use of the drawer and eventually for other people for the intended transaction or activity. Given this, as shown in the video and picture, once all the blanks are filled out and signed by the issuer or drawer, the check is ready for use. And then, you go back to the purpose and function of a negotiable instrument for better understanding. And for better understanding of this complex area of law, we will go back to the requirements for an instrument to be considered negotiable. Again, the requirements are found in Section 1 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. So, the check issued is negotiable. But have you noticed that the date written is July 18, 2020 and not today, April 18, 2020, the date when I actually filled out the blank portions of the check? This is what we call as post-dating. Post means after or later. You must know this possibility because the date is indicative of the date of delivery. So, if what is written therein is the date today, April 18, 2020, it is understood that the check was delivered to the payee on April 18, 2022. But, given what is written is July 18, 2020, it is understood that July 18, 2020 is the date of maturity. On such date, the check becomes payable on demand. Post-dating is allowed under the law unless the purpose of doing such is to sustain fraud. A practical application of post-dating is when one is renting a house and the lessor requires the lessee to issue checks as security of payment. So, the lessee issues checks that covers the lease period. Let us say the lease period is good for 1 year from today and the rental is paid monthly in the amount of 10,000 pesos. So, the lessee writes 12 checks in the amount of 10,000 pesos, each covering the 12 months, May 18, 2020 until April 18, 2020. Even if May 18, 2020 is yet to come, the lessee is not prohibited from doing so. Since this is clear to you now and there are other things that we must tackle, we have to end here and the rest of the commercial law aspect of checks will be tackled in the next video, including the criminal law aspect of checks. Bye for now. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.